This is probably going to be the first and last time I talk about a Troma movie, because Troma movies, there's really only so much you could say about them. Yes, they're incredibly cheap. Yes, they're incredibly lowbrow and definitely filled to the brim with bad taste. But if you accept them for what they are and know that some of the content is going to be extremely offensive, that's sort of their charm.
You fool! This restaurant is built on ancient Troma tribe sacred Indian burial ground! Get out while you still can! Get out! Save yourselves! Save yourselves!
I'll have the sloppy Jose value meal.
Good morning, Tromaville!
We will never rest while big business tramples over the rich history and culture of the Native Americans while simultaneously slaughtering countless innocent chickens.
So yeah, before we even talk about the movie itself, content warning, there's a lot of fucked up shit in this movie. But if you're familiar with Troma and the kind of stuff that they do, then you're pretty much expected from them. When a fast food chicken restaurant is built on the site of an ancient Native American burial ground, the displaced spirits unite with the ghosts of exterminated chickens and transform into Native American chicken zombies seeking revenge. When it comes to doing movie reviews on the internet, Troma definitely has a fair share of movies that are insanely weird and fucked up and easy to talk about, but they're still above something like The Asylum or Jagged Edge Productions. They feel more in league with something like Full Moon Pictures. Whereas Full Moon Pictures is obviously Charles Band's baby, and he clearly pioneered the way of making movies on an incredibly low budget that often rely on really shitty acting and obviously cheap special effects. Troma was kind of the same way. And the man responsible for Troma Pictures and some of its classic movies is Lloyd Kaufman. And if I were to describe Lloyd Kaufman, I'd personally say he's kind of like the Mel Brooks of exploitation films. He makes these movies really tongue-in-cheek. They have a really broad sense of humor to them.
Greetings from Tromaville. I'm Lloyd Kaufman, president of Troma Entertainment and creator of The Toxic Avenger.
And Troma also helped as a springboard for creators like Trey Parker and Matt Stone, as Troma helped them with their first feature film, Cannibal the Musical. And Troma is also responsible for being a springboard for James Gunn before he really launched into the mainstream studio system. With weird fucked up classic after weird fucked up classic, including The Toxic Avenger, Tromeo and Juliet, and Terra Firma, then you get to this one, which was sort of a new beginning for Troma, because this one took a very long time to make. I did brush up a little bit on the history of this one, and from what I can tell, this one took forever to get off the ground, and ultimately it resulted in them having to take money out of Lloyd Kaufman and his wife's retirement fund, so they had to use some of their own money out of pocket to help finance this thing. And it all started with a spec script that they were sent in 2002, and ultimately the movie was being worked on all throughout the years, and they finally released it in 2008, but they were working on it, as far as I can tell, since 2006. Weirdly enough, back when it first came out, this was one that critics actually praised. This was considered Troma's most critically successful movie, because for the longest time, critics like, Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, they said that Troma were just making a bunch of straight hot garbage. And this was the one that a lot of critics actually said was pretty good. So what is the movie about? Well, the movie begins with our main character and his girlfriend about to have sex on an ancient Indian burial ground. Right away, the movie establishes that it's going to be incredibly tongue-in-cheek and silly, because all the characters' names in this movie, or at least most of them, are supposed to be plays off of well-known fast food companies. Like, the main character's name is Arby, and his girlfriend's name is Wendy. So while they're having sex, they talk about this is probably going to be the last time they see each other for a while, since Wendy's going away to college, and Arby is staying behind to take care of his disabled parents.
Even though I'll be surrounded by spoiled trust fund kids who have guaranteed six-figure jobs waiting for them at their daddy's companies after they graduate, it'll never change me.
But they're having sex, one thing leads to another, and then, a zombie hand comes up, and a finger goes right up Arby's ass.
What do you say we pick up right where we left off? I know this old pervert-free graveyard in Newton, and look! I brought her old butt plug.
And surprisingly enough, this is actually going to become a plot point, at least a little bit later on. Because then we jump forward in time a little bit. We see that Wendy is now back from college, and she's with a group of college students who are protesting outside of a KFC parody restaurant called the Great American Chicken Bunker. And, you know, the head of it is supposed to be a playoff of Colonel Sanders. His name is, like, General Leroy.
General has provided ample accommodations for your displaced, dead red men. They have gone to a better place.
That's way later on. Arby ends up coming across Wendy, and it turns out that Wendy has actually switched teams. She has now come out as a lesbian, and she is currently with the leader of this little protest named Mickey. Like Mickey D's, get it? And then the movie hits you square in the face with the first musical number it has, because yes, this is also a musical.
I rolled out of bed today. Little did I know Wendy was gay. A feminazi with no bra. She will forbid menage a trois.
So he decides the best way to stick it to his girlfriend is by getting a job at this restaurant that they're protesting. So he goes in, applies for a job, and we see some of the other colorful and stereotypical characters that are at this place. You have a black guy named Denny.
You the manager?
You know it. Denny's the name, and fast food franchising's my game. Well, that and hungry hippos.
You have a Muslim girl dressed up in a burqa named Hummus.
This here's our new cook. This here's Hamas.
It's not Hamas. It's hummus, like the dip.
You have a Mexican guy who's, they say, is supposed to be homosexual, but his name is Paco Bell.
Martin Sheen and Janine Garofalo rode to one fabulous burrito of political activism. By masturbating in this food, I am waking up the world. Viva la revolucion!
Then you have a stereotypical white trash guy called Carl Jr.
I know, Arby. We was on the debating team in high school together.
That's right! You see, I was anti-bestiality and he was pro.
What job does Arby end up getting at this place? He gets the role of counter girl. And they give him a skirt and everything to go along with that title. Anyway, in the grand tradition of idiots ignoring all the obvious warning signs, you have several eggs that are pulsating that they find in the back.
What the hell happened to the 100% USDA grade tolerable chicken we thought of for today? And who put these mysterious, vein-covered, pulsating eggs in this box?
They're even visited by a very awkward, out-of-place cameo from Ron Jeremy, who shows up telling them that they better look out because the restaurant was built on top of an ancient Indian burial ground for the Troma tribe.
You fools! This restaurant is built on ancient Troma tribe, sacred Indian burial ground! Get out while you still can! Get out! Save yourselves! Save yourselves!
I'll have the sloppy Jose value meal, and please substitute the cola with a clockwork orange. Thank you.
Which, if you're familiar with Troma, that's a thing they do. They often try to force in the name Troma any way they can. So Troma tribe, and they even at one point called the city Tromaville.
Everybody knows that Tromaville is the bulimia capital of the world. Yeah.
But after that Ron Jeremy cameo, that's just kind of awkward in hindsight. You then get an awkward parody of Jared, because he's a really fat guy waiting in line, and I guess it's supposed to be a joke about how even despite his marketing campaign of eating fast food somehow making him thinner, he still gained weight back.
Aren't you the guy that lost all that weight eating those fast food hero sandwiches? Jared, right? Wow, you are such an inspiration. And you kept the weight off. How'd you do it?
It's all about moderation, my boy.
Let's just be glad that this came out when it did, because if this came out after 2014, they definitely would have made more than a couple pedophile jokes about him.
Arby, how dare you let that priest nibble on my cock? What are you, the Catholic Church?
Holy shit, is that you, Paco?
He eats a bunch of their food and then he runs out, and he ends up losing all the weight because he takes a massive shit.
I'm skinny! I'm skinny! Yip, yip, yahoo!
Hey, Jared?
While that incredibly charming scene is going on, Arby is just too busy daydreaming, and we get another song sequence out of it. At this point in the movie, that's when General Leroy shows up and he's trying to calm down everybody in the crowd. And, well, they're not going to take it because even though he's giving the standard corporate, oh, we care about animals and we care about the environment and, you know, we're ethical billionaires and all that kind of stuff, you know, nobody's really buying it. And considering some of the shit he says, it's kind of easy to see why they're not swayed.
Oh, it's just like my old grandpappy used to say. Hey, Junior, get over here with them matches. This cross ain't gonna burn itself. What?
Also later on in the movie, they reveal that he has a diaper and baby fetish, and he tries to downplay it.
For the record, having a diaper fetish is a completely normal, healthy, and harmless bedroom activity.
I said this when I reviewed Penny and Stocking a couple months ago, but before anyone says, oh, there's no way they could get away with making a movie like this now, I don't think they could have gotten away with it even back then. And honestly, figuring out that this movie got a shit ton of positive reviews from well-known mainstream movie critics was actually kind of shocking. One thing I will give them credit for, though, and I'm not going to harp on this too much, but I mean, edgy comedy like this, I can at least be like, well, there's an effort for actual comedy because it seems like it's being unapologetic towards virtually everybody versus something like, I don't know, comedy that you see coming from like Daily Wire or shit like that where they're like, look, we're edgy, we're not afraid to push buttons, snowflakes, and then you watch and it's like, this isn't fucking edgy. This movie, on the other hand, this movie doesn't stray away.
Oh, don't worry, Carl Jr. ain't adverse to taking the back door. Oh. Ooh.
You ain't gonna see some shit like that and hack bullshit like The New Norm or anything like that, that's all I'm gonna say. Then, like, halfway through the movie, maybe a little bit past that, you finally start to get to the main plot as, oh yeah, this is a movie about zombie chickens seeking revenge on humans in a KFC-type restaurant, so a bunch of zombie chickens end up hatching out of the eggs. Of course, they end up going for the protesters as well because, you know, it's an entire crowd of people. That way, the zombie infection spreads faster.
I know it's fattening, but I love the skin.
I hate this skin.
Then at that point, it basically becomes your typical zombie movie in that small group of characters are trying to get away from giant zombie outbreak and maybe eventually find a way to stop it, but for now, they just gotta get the hell away from them. Except the twist here is that you not only turn into a zombie, but you become a zombie chicken human hybrid thing. They do get someone new. They get someone who's this really old guy who's apparently been working there for a very long time, played by Lloyd Kaufman.
You look young. I was young once, full of hopes and dreams, until... Hey, who's telling this story, schmuck?
But unfortunately, he ends up getting taken out. And
What the fuck are you talking about, you idiot? I led a shitty life. I was an ACB counter girl for 25 years, just like you'll be.
when you also have it that the Kmart Colonel Sanders guy ends up turning into a zombie because after getting bitten, he says fuck it and he eats a chicken sandwich that's possessed by one of the, you know, undead chickens. And you see super graphic detail of him biting into it and like bloodshed. And it's just like you'd expect out of a gross, disgusting, grimy type of movie from Troma. It ain't pretty.
You can play at this game, mister.
He basically becomes the big final boss. Like, yeah, you still got a bunch of zombies and shit roaming around, but they're in the basement of the place, and they're trying to find a way out, and they also find out that there's like a bunch of eggs that are about to hatch, so that way the zombie virus will spread even further past the restaurant. Mutated, disgusting human chicken zombie hybrid, and he's about to launch into a song number, but then he decides to cut it off and he's about ready to kill all of them.
Consume you now, the new white meat.
But then Hummus, while trying to fight them off upstairs, she downs a bunch of chicken steroids and she grows really buff and then she explodes.
Please don't hurt us! Look at Barry Bonds now!
Which really doesn't matter because like 2 seconds later she shows up again and they don't really question it.
Hey! Hummus, didn't you die?
No time to explain. Follow me.
Before we wrap things up, I just want to point out this little factoid that while they were making the movie, before the very last day, they started taking part of the set down, and then they realized they still had one more day left to film. So, yeah, if the end of the movie feels incredibly slapdashed and rushed, that might explain it. But ultimately, they're saved by hummus because she decides that she's going to blow up the whole restaurant, and she also ends up taking off her burqa and revealing that she's some blonde swimsuit model. I honestly found it a little bit weird because that same actress is in the background of some of the shots in the crowd of protesters.
The kids can learn arithmetic by...
So it was just like, if you're going to show what she looks like, why even bother getting... She ends up blowing up the restaurant, the good guys manage to escape, and then they have what I guess is supposed to be sequel bait, where they get in the car, they drive away, and then an egg in the back ends up hatching and starts attacking them, and then it turns into stock footage of a car spinning and crashing. As a side note, I would love to take any movie out there and then just add that footage at the end of it. Just take any movie and then for some reason end with really out of place stock footage of a car crashing. Like take that clip of the car driving off the cliff from Kids in the Hall. So overall, Poultrygeist, it's bad and that's what makes it good. I think that's sort of the general definition of a Troma movie right there. As far as the content goes, if you don't like offensive comedy, then by all means do not watch this. If you don't really care about offensive comedy, then by all means, yeah, maybe check it out. I mean, the movie, despite all of the really graphic shit, it's on YouTube for free. For what it's worth, like a lot of their other movies, Lloyd Kaufman has freely said torrent the movies as much as possible because he's that much of an anti-authoritarian. He hates the Hollywood system, he hates that kind of stuff, so he's openly told people to just freely torrent his movies as much as possible. And even despite that, the movie is free and available on YouTube despite all of its nudity and shit. I mean, I know there's a lot of like low-budget movie companies like The Asylum that have been freely allowing their movies, even with graphic gore and nudity and stuff like that, to just freely be posted. By all means, check out Poultrygeist. If you're a fan of Troma and you somehow haven't seen it, I'd say check it out. For anyone who's not familiar with Troma and doesn't really watch these kind of movies, yeah, I'd say watch at your own discretion. It really comes down to if you can tolerate the kind of humor that's in this thing. It's loaded to the brim with the kind of stuff that Troma typically does, where they try to push boundaries and they try to be edgy and graphic and disgusting and vile as possible. You can appreciate a movie like this way more than something like Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving 3, because those movies, again, they're low budget and they're clearly trying to do something similar to Troma, where it's like, oh, we're making a movie that's so stupid on purpose. But I feel like a movie like this works so much better compared to stuff from Asylum and especially Jagged Edge Productions, where those, especially the latter of those try so hard to be taken seriously despite their silly premises, and it just is like, all right, this is a one-note joke of a movie. This movie is also sort of a one-note joke movie, but it has so many like visual gags and banter back and forth, and despite its low budget, they clearly put their all into it and they clearly worked hard on it. So there's sort of a weird admiration that I could give for a movie like this versus like, you know, oh, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, or The Mousetrap, or fucking the other day someone sent me a trailer for a Popeye horror movie.
Monster.
Oh yeah. What? Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't care anymore. Like, I've stopped giving a shit about these fucking stupid slasher public domain or popular cartoon IP horror films a long time ago. So, fuck it, whatever. This is at least an original concept, and it's fucking balls to the wall insane, and they run with it, and they do so many fucked up weird things in it that I never would have expected to see. I feel like a movie like this is sort of in the vein of something like Evil Toons, which I also did a review for. But Evil Toons had an interesting concept, but it barely used it because they didn't really have the budget or resources to make a movie where, oh, it's a bunch of evil killer cartoons in the real world. They only really had that for like 5 minutes total. This movie, they had such limited resources and they just went absolutely hog wild with it. And I feel like in a weird way that kind of celebrates the whole idea of fuck it, we can just assemble whatever we got and let's make a movie. I feel like Troma kind of celebrates that glorious can-do attitude that comes with low-budget filmmaking. And again, not everything in the movie is good, but if you're familiar with Troma and the kind of stuff that they make, then by all means, I'd say definitely check it out. Of course, remember, watch at your own discretion, because clearly not everyone has the stomach for the kind of stuff that's in this movie. Anyways, guys, that does it for a Blockbusters show in November. We're going to be doing 3 movie reviews in December. Of course, they're all going to be Christmas or winter-themed movies. We got some crappy rom-coms. We got the remake of Snow Day. I didn't even realize they did that until the beginning of the year. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about that. Who knows, maybe it'll be at least a little bit better than Good Burger 2, or maybe it won't. We'll have to wait and see. We even got an 80s Christmas special to talk about as well. A good old cheesy 80s animated Christmas special, but you're going to have to wait and see what that's going to be until next time. Until then, guys, I'm Adam Sykes of The Blockbuster Show, and we will see you guys in the next video.
We've got 500 copies of Suicide Squad and absolutely no copies of the Troma movies, not even Toxic Avenger.